Hi, my name is Ashley Varner, and this is video 2 for the assessment module Target Student 7 through 12th grade setting. So first I'm going to start off with John Doe's strengths and weaknesses. So we know that John Doe can identify examples of cause and effect. One of his risks that was flagged was his passage comprehension. So we know that he can identify the cause and effect in different passages. We know that he can apply grade level phonics and word analysis skills in decoding passages on his level. Maybe not on grade level, but on his level. He can also read unfamiliar multisyllabic words in context and out of context. He can find combinations of 1,000 and identify missing add-ins. He can find different number pairs with the same sum for sums to 1,000. He can identify measurable attributes of objects using informal language. He can also directly compare the length of two objects and describe the difference. So these are all good things that he can do. John Doe cannot determine the main idea of a grade level informational text. Now, if it's on his level, that's a different story. He might can do that, but he cannot do for grade level. He can write a summary describing the text's overall main idea using supporting, or he cannot write a summary of a book that he just read. He cannot demonstrate reading comprehension by answering the who, what, when, and where questions. He cannot multiply fractions with unlike denominators using equivalent fractions. He cannot compute unit rates associated with ratios of fractions. And he cannot solve multi-step real-life mathematical problems. So these are some things that we want to address in this informal assessment. So my goal for this, I knew that he had issues with passage comprehension and also with mathematical problem solving and calculations. So it was my goal for this informal assessment to kind of cover all three aspects. So for this informal assessment, I had a passage for John Doe to read. It was a word problem, and John Doe was given this word problem, and underneath it, I had him read the question. So first of all, it says, what is the problem about? And John Doe had to tell me what the problem was about. So what are you trying to find? What information is important? What is the problem asking you to do? Is there a formula needed to solve the problem? If so, what is it? And then on the bottom, he solved the problem at the bottom of the paper. Okay, so John Doe actually did very fantastic. A lot of the times in math, it's the word problems that get students a lot because there's so many words they're trying to weed through to figure out, what's my important information. And I wanted to use this to see if he was able to pick those pieces out. Now, maybe if I would have just given him this problem, he probably would have just bombed it really bad. But because I wanted to make sure that he was capable of picking out the information as long as he was asked the right kinds of questions. So whenever he did this, and I actually read it to him several times, he could read it. I read it to him. I let him read it to me. We kind of went back and forth just so that we could get all the answers out that we needed. But John Doe answered every one of the questions correctly as far as what is the problem about, what are you trying to find, what information is important, what is the problem asking you, is there a formula? Okay, he answered all those correctly. He did really well on that part. And then he started out on to solve the problem. Okay, so when he was solving the problem, he kind of got a little mixed up. The problem involved some division, some long division, and he got mixed up on some of those. So one of my recommendations, and so actually overall he did not solve the problem correctly, but I was extremely proud that he was able to pull out the pieces to find his important information that he needed. Okay, that he needed for the problem and to figure out how to solve the problem. It was his calculation that was off in this case. So, and it is my recommendation that John Doe practice his multiplication and his division skills, because multiplication and division, they're just the opposite of each other, so they kind of tie into each other. If he can multiply, more than likely he can divide because it's just the opposite. Okay, Let me make sure we have all this in here. All right. During the informal assessment, John Doe was very calm. He was actually a little too calm in my book, so he kind of didn't take it very seriously. He was very nonchalant. This was just him being able to get out of class, and he really enjoyed that. So I did have to redirect him a couple of times. Hey, this is a serious test. I need some real results. So I had to kind of explain the importance of this assessment to him, because he doesn't know me. He's only met with me on a couple of occasions, and so he just kind of thought, I'm just able to get out of class and just kind of goof off. So I did have to go back and reiterate how important this was, that he paid close attention and he was serious about it. Let's see. Okay. So one of the things with John Doe that I wanted to do, I wanted to be able to make sure that we worked on the passage comprehension. I felt like that covered that in this. I felt like asking those questions helped him to be able to ask those kind of questions when he's reading a passage. Now, this was for math. This assessment was for math because that's his main area of struggle. But I also know that in science, in reading, in math, in social studies, in all of these different content areas, he's going to have to be able to comprehend what he's either reading or being read. And so I wanted to make sure that got in there, and he did great on it. I think one of the issues with John Doe is that he struggles to pull the information out by himself. So if there are already questions at like how this assessment had those questions, those specific questions, and it was his job to pull out the information. So he wasn't having to ask himself these questions. They were right there already in front of him. He just had to pull it out, and he was able to do that. And I think with that kind of help, he could do that in his other classes as well, not just math. So I'm trying to make sure I have everything in here for this student. Let's see. So it is my recommendation that John Doe also continue working with word problems, continue working with comprehension strategies. So like I said, he did really well when there was a list of questions that he was able to ask himself and go back and find that information. If on different assignments in different classes, if they're one of his modifications could be to have those. Who is the story about? What are they doing? Where are they at? And this will allow him to comprehend what he's reading, what he's being read, and it will help him overall with his passage comprehension. So for this, John Doe did really well. And it is my hope that through this informal assessment that it bring about results for his teachers to be able to use different strategies so that it'll help him in his classwork. It'll help him succeed in school, because that's what we want for John Doe.